The South African Human Rights Commission is calling on government to declare the food insecurity crisis in the Eastern Cape a disaster. This comes after the Commission released a report which found that at least 114 children died due to acute malnutrition, and that's for the period between April 2021 and April 2022. A number of factors have been attributed to this crisis, including insufficient access to food at homes and in schools as well. The Human Rights Commission is now calling for urgent government intervention. Let's unpack the story further. We're joined this morning by Commissioner Jonas Sibanyoni. Commissioner, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for coming on. And certainly on the face of it, Commissioner, there's nothing to signal, or there's very little to signal, I should rather say, that government is treating food insecurity, especially insofar as how it's affecting children, as a crisis.
Good morning, Michelle, and good morning to your viewers. And let me start by saying thank you for inviting us as the South African Human Rights Commission to talk about this very, very important issue of malnutrition in the Eastern Cape as well as in the rest of South Africa, in some parts of the country.
The Eastern Cape stands out, doesn't it, Commissioner? It's an issue that we face in various parts of the country. But tell us why the Eastern Cape does stand out, even insofar as this report by the Human Rights Commission is concerned.
It is because the severe acute malnutrition is the highest in the Eastern Cape. This followed some of the various complaints that the South African Human Rights Commission has received from the members of the community. And also, the media has been talking about it. And as a South African Human Rights Commission, we are also aware, I think your viewers as well, of one lady who killed her children, and then thereafter she committed suicide. And we took it upon ourselves to use the mandate that we are given by the Constitution to hold an inquiry. We called upon the complainants to come and testify before the South African Human Rights Commission. I was the chairperson of the inquiry, and then apart that, we also called upon the organs of state who came and gave testimony, and then indeed, it was an issue, a crisis issue that, as the Human Rights Commission, we find that indeed there is a malnutrition in the Eastern Cape. And also because there were some also other people coming in that also across the country. Malnutrition is there. It affects the people the most. I must emphasize that.
Commissioner, you know, I can just hear government spokespeople talking about the fact that we have social grants. We also have the school nutrition program. But the fact of the matter, Commissioner, is that it just doesn't go far enough, right? Even under the school nutrition program, that meal will, in most cases, be the only meal that children receive on any given day. And of course, the impact is wide-ranging, right? It's not just about a school nutrition program, but it's about education outcomes. It's about the future hope of these children and how they will develop into adults and be able to participate in the economy.
Yes, indeed, absolutely. The social grant is found to be below the poverty line, and then it does not cover all the learners because there are the early child development centers that are having children. The social grant is not given to those ECD, the early child development centers. And also I must emphasize that the social grant is not available during the weekends, and it's also not available during the holidays. And that's why, as the Human Rights Commission, when we were making our recommendations, we emphasized that there should be some collaboration between the Department of Social Development as well as the Treasury Department in the Eastern Cape. And then we are looking forward to that. We are going to take our report to Parliament. As I said, that it is not only in the Eastern Cape, but it is across the country. The Eastern Cape just is like a pole above water. Yeah. Where the crisis is. Yeah,
it is certainly an issue that is of crisis proportions. And yet, Commissioner, the Standing Committee on Finance and its recommendation to expand that zero-rated basket of goods was actually rejected by Treasury. Surely this is one of the ways in which we can begin to ensure that people still are able to provide the very basics in their households.
Yes, talking about the being rejected, as the South African Human Rights Commission will say that our recommendations or our directives are binding, and then it is only a court of law that can review, and if it finds that the South African Human Rights Commission has defaulted, it can set it aside. But otherwise, our directives are binding, and we are following the decision of the Constitutional Court when it was dealing with the powers or the directives of the Public Protector, which the Constitutional Court, consisting of 11 judges, said that it is binding. Now, as the South African Human Rights Commission, we've got also the constitutional mandate to secure redress where human rights have been violated or have been infringed. And then that is why we are saying National Treasury should seriously consider increasing the social grant. And then we have also said that the malnutrition should be declared a state of disaster in the Eastern Cape.
Because at the end of the day, Commissioner, this is a human rights issue.
It is a human rights issue. It infringes various rights. It infringes the rights to dignity because a person who is suffering from poverty or from hunger does not have dignity. It infringes the right to life. The people who have succumbed, who have passed on due to malnutrition, their rights to life has been violated. It infringes the right of equality because the most who are affected are those people who are staying in the deep rural areas. And it is so unfair that it affects black people and colored people in the Eastern Cape. And then, that's why there are a whole host of human rights that have been violated. And as a watchdog on basic human rights, that's why we are utilizing our mandate, our powers. And then I always say, Michelle, we are like we are called a watchdog. And then to use an analogy of a dog, I always say we are having barking powers. When there are some infringement, we start like saying those infringements should be corrected. Mm-hmm. And then if they are not corrected, we come up with these drastic steps that we take, like a dog when it starts by barking when a stranger approaches the homestead, and then if a stranger does not listen, and then the dog ends by biting. So the South African Human Rights Commission, I always say, has got barking powers as well as biting powers.
I think that analogy is incredibly fitting, and I think we can all agree that the biting needs to begin. Malnutrition is a crisis, particularly in the Eastern Cape, and food insecurity needs to be declared a disaster. Commissioner Jonas Sibanyoni, let me thank you for your time this morning.